Hi, I'm Doug Keene, and this is brought to you by the Carpet and FabriCare Institute, commonly known as CFI. I've been a member of CFI for over 40 years. I've been a director, regional director, and let me tell you why you should join CFI. CFI is the training ground for moving on in this industry. It'll give you all the information you need, and you get to hang out with other carpet cleaners and ask the silly questions that you're afraid to ask of everybody else, and they'll have the answers for you. I've been at this a very long time. I've owned a business for almost 40 years now, and CFI is where I got my start in this industry, moved up to the IICRC board and some other things. But I will tell you, this is a valuable opportunity for you and your employees to learn more about this industry and how to be better at it.
Thanks, Doug. If any of you don't know Doug, he's been around the industry a long time. He started King's Carpet Service in 1983. He's been active in his community with the CFI, the IICRC, in business with the Kiwanis. He's always been involved, so helping with committees, board positions, and he got involved with his community and was elected to the city council and later became the mayor of Lodi. That's getting pretty involved. And he's filling in for Steve because Steve's got some other things that he's going to be doing, and he knew Doug had nothing else going on. So Doug's stepping in and felt Doug was the right guy because Doug has done this before. Back in the go-to meeting days, he and Steve did exactly this. So it'll be a good fit, and glad to have you, Doug. And as my wife would say, I've left out the important stuff, like he managed to raise a bunch of responsible kids, which I think is the highest calling. But anyway, if you don't know Doug, and it takes about 5 years for any of us to be forgotten, that's Doug. Oh, I did want to ask you, Doug, is that guy that sang about trying to get out of Lodi, is he still there?
Creedence Clearwater Revival. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That dates me quite a bit, doesn't it?
Thanks, Brian. That's Lodi's theme song.
Okay. So who do we got coming up here with us, Doug?
We have got Steve, and Steve's going to tell us a whole bunch of information about encapsulation. And quite honestly, I've seen encapsulation perform. I don't personally do encapsulation in my company, but I might after today, and so might you. So Steve from Amoresco.
Aramsco is how that's
Aramsco.
Yeah.
You know, it was easy when you were with these other companies because I know them.
Yeah.
Aramsco, though. And I'm looking forward to this and gleaning some information for my company so that I can use. I've got some questions for you down the line. You can post questions as well if you'd like online. We have a list of them that have been submitted already. But let's jump right in. Steve, tell us. Oh, wait, Brian, you're going to introduce Steve with some really cool, Steve Johnson with some really cool information about him.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Steve. I took your 3 pages of bio and cut it down quite a bit.
I deleted it from 6 down to 3 before I sent it to you. So,
well, he's done a lot. So basically, he's been in the cleaning industry for over 35 years. He started out running a high-end cleaning business before he was absorbed by the Borg and became part of Interlink, now Aramsco. He's held multiple positions with the company, taught classes, done a lot of work with industry groups like ours. And you may have met him at a past event or convention. He reminded me that I've met him before and didn't remember, so he gave me a hard time about it. But he does love to help people be successful. And that's why he's here tonight. And thank you for coming, Steve. And
my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I think we're going to learn a lot.
Yeah, good.
So how do you want to get started? Do you want to tell us a little bit about, you're the expert. Tell us a little bit about just an overview of what we're going to do tonight.
So we can do this a couple different ways. I can certainly get on the list of all the benefits of encapsulation and talk about it and kind of do lecture style, but sometimes that's not as entertaining and people probably have specific questions. I think the largest percentage of your CFI members are probably pretty educated and experienced, so they might have more specific or exacting questions. So maybe just real quick, the first question a lot of people ask is, what exactly is encapsulation cleaning? And I think it's important to clear up a couple of things when it comes to encapsulation cleaning. And what it's defined as is it's a low moisture system designed for interim or maintenance cleaning, basically on commercial carpet. Now, it doesn't mean you can't do it on residential, doesn't mean you can't do it on upholstery, but it was designed as an interim or a maintenance system for commercial carpet. All the fundamentals of cleaning are still present. We're not changing the laws of physics. We're not changing the rules of cleaning. You still got to have your dry soil removal, your soil suspension, your extraction, your finishing and drying. And we can talk about those a little bit more in detail if you like. But it differs from hot water extraction a little bit in that we know it's hot water extraction. We lay down a pre-spray, we agitate it, we suspend or emulsify the soils into a solution, and those are made to be rinsed or extracted away. And if we don't rinse or extract those away, they can reattach to fibers, the carpet can get soiled quickly, and so forth. Well, the way encapsulation works is a little bit different. You lay down your pre-spray or encapsulating pre-spray. There's a couple of different methods to do that. It's agitated and often aggressively into the fibers, where it attaches to the soils, oils, and greases, and it dries into what we call a crystal lattice structure or a brittle film. And there's probably questions about that. There's concerns, there's debates. What is it really doing? We define it as the form of the polymer, what structure is the polymer in. But what happens is that encapsulating chemical attaches to those soils, oils, and greases and encapsulates in, that dries into this crystal lattice structure, which may be better defined as a brittle film. And then that film basically cracks and dissipates, or dissipated is the right word, but falls to the base of the yarns. And then it's vacuumed out with a post-vacuuming treatment. Now, there's also a polymer typically, depending on whose chemistry you're using, and that polymer will coat that fiber and render it resistant to soils for ongoing. And so what it does, it really helps the carpet stay cleaner, last longer. It's easier to clean next time you clean. And so it's a very simple, very fast, very safe system that's widely recognized by the mills. The carpet mills love this as an interim of maintenance. Years ago, we used to do a lot of things with Shaw and some of the other mills, and we did training for all their direct buy customers and people that got through Shaw Direct Flooring, Packcraft, and those organizations. And Shaw, rightfully so, got tired of paying millions of dollars in unjustified claims for carpet that was poorly maintained. And so they spent a lot of money and a lot of research and a lot of development to train their people that were buying those carpets direct how to do proper interim or maintenance cleaning instead of your traditional methods that we all grew up with, the bonneting and things like that. So jumping forward, encapsulation is really the premier low moisture way to clean and maintain commercial glue down carpet. It's not new, it's been around for decades, but the chemistry and the equipment today is far greater than what was available out there for a long time.
I do remember being introduced to an encapsulation system back in the DuPont maintenance days, and they had a tool that looked like a lawnmower.
Right.
And the guy who was demoing it actually ran down the hallway with it, and to prove how fast you could, clean with it.
Right.
And we asked him, where's the dirt go? And he said, who cares? It looks great. and he was right. The carpet looked great. But, we were concerned that at some point you have to pay the piper, and at some point you have to get the, whatever it is out. So it was interesting because in that case, DuPont had built an non-viable maintenance program, and then had to come up with a way to make it work for the people who were doing it.
And there was a whole movement with that, and it was extensive, and they put a lot of money into it. And I don't think we're supposed to throw out any brand names. We're certainly not throwing anybody under the bus. And they have definitely improved their system and their chemistry over the years. So, but they flooded the market. They probably didn't have proper vetting. Some of the raw materials weren't maybe the same quality then as they are today, and so forth. And then maybe similar situation like we have today, right? There's two camps. There's probably people that undervalue this service, which I think value is discussing today. And there's probably people that overvalue it or maybe overstate what the capabilities are. And, you mentioned, you asked a question to somebody, where does the dirt go? But the dirt certainly goes away, and it certainly has moved away if done correctly. Like all systems, encapsulation needs to be done correctly. And if the process is not done correctly, or you cut corners, or you try to, get that extra 1,000 square feet per hour, you want 5 instead of 4 or 6 instead of 5, you might be cutting a corner. And we all know what happens when you do that. So hot water extraction is no different, or any other method is no different. When you try to deviate from the plan, that's when things go awry.
Yeah, it's okay for me to throw somebody under the bus, because I can be the flippant guy, because nobody's going to come after me.
Right. Right. Well, in today's world, what we do is we associate that with the quality of the product, the application, and the person himself. And here's what we really believe, and here's what we've taught for the last 20 plus years at Bridgepoint when it comes to encapsulation. And most of our communications with carpet mills, which we communicate with regularly, especially Shaw, is that if somebody's had a bad experience with encapsulation, or didn't like it, or felt like it was not given as advertised, there's probably one of 3 reasons. Number one is they probably used a lesser quality product. They probably had poor chemistry. It is not easy to make a quality encapsulation chemistry. Everybody is in that space. Everybody has a product. Every chemical manufacturer has an encapsulating chemistry, but they're not all created equal. I think we can all admit that when you use one of the top manufacturers in your hot water extraction, your pre-sprays, your rinses, you follow the proper fundamentals of cleaning, you're going to do a pretty good job. When you're using your Bridgepoints, your ProChems, your CTIs, whoever your favorite guys out there are, when you use a quality product, you're going to do a pretty good job. That's not the case with encapsulation. Not all encapsulants are created equal. It's very difficult to make a quality product that cleans well, suspends soils, removes those soils through the vacuuming after the crystal lattice structure dries. The post-vacuuming is important. And then, of course, how good is that polymer? What is that polymer doing long term? So poor chemistry is usually number one. The second one is poor application. You mentioned the guy running behind the machine to show you how fast it is. Was he going at the proper speed based on the soiling condition or the type of the carpet? Was the machine or the equipment that he was using really the right kind of equipment to do encapsulation with? And then the last one, and probably the most common, honestly, I don't know that these are really in any specific order, but unreasonable expectations. You don't typically go in and try to clean up an Exxon spill with encapsulation. Now, the good news is it's so fast and so efficient, I can hit an area multiple times and maybe get the equivalent of a restorative cleaning with my encapsulation, especially some of the guys that do some of the more aggressive methods, the Cymex, the Trinity, some pretty aggressive equipment that's out there. You can do some pretty amazing jobs on cleaning. There's other orbital oscillating equipment that's very effective. The carpet mills prefer the CRBs, or the counter rotating brush machines. They like the vertical agitation. They like the deep down agitation. They like standing the fibers up. They don't like causing any undue harm to the fibers and so forth. So that's one of the 3 reasons. I would challenge that. If somebody's had a bad experience with encapsulation cleaning, I would look to one of those 3 things. What chemistry were they using? They might have had a poor quality product. What application were they doing? And did they have unreasonable expectations on the soiling condition? Because it really is not the be all end all of cleaning. It's an interim or maintenance system. Most of the mills tell you they really don't want you to encapsulate more than 3 or 4 times between hot water extractions. That's not a hard and fast carved in stone rule, but it's a guideline that they like to follow. And again, that all depends on soiling conditions, fiber type, traffic, type of soil, and so forth. We have many customers that will go 2 years and 10, 12 times, never have a problem. So, the condition of the carpet, the soiling is going to dictate that.
Well, you,
Steve, I gotta tell you, the
Good.
first time I saw this was at a trade show in Las Vegas, and they were demoing it where forklifts were driving in. And I gotta tell you, I was pretty impressed. Low pile carpet, CRB machine, and it did a really good job in a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
So, but there's also all types of equipment that are available for people to use. One, I just saw a comment pop up. They went from one machine to an orbital machine, and you're talking about CRB. Tell me which one, in your opinion, is more effective. If you were to recommend a type of machine, what would it be?
Yes. So let's start with, I'm a big fan of the CRB, the counter rotating brush machines, right? For several reasons. The vertical.
Wait, let me get clarity on you from that first. So it's a round cylindrical device that rotates counterclockwise, not a rotating circular.
Flip that on its side. So the CRBs, or the counter rotating brushes, are actually a vertical agitation. It's not necessarily too horizontal like a rotary with 2 heads or 3 heads. A CRB is a counter rotating brush. They'll typically have 2 brushes on a machine, potentially a third, depending on the machine. There's a couple out there I've seen. There's one, I think it's called a trio, that's popular for guys who do a lot of commercial. The mills really like that one. And it's fast, it's efficient, it's lightweight, anybody can carry it around, and it meets all the mill guidelines and it meets all the mill specs. So I'm a big fan of that. But I also love other machines like the Cymex. I'm a big fan of the Cymex. Now, some of the mills really denounce rotary. If you're familiar with the Cymex, it doesn't necessarily fall into the standard rotary action, right? When you look at 175 RPM, 1.5 horse machine, spinning on a carpet, that's pretty aggressive, heavyweight on those fibers. And when it's done incorrectly, or doesn't have good lubrication, or maybe done extensively in an area, there's some potential issues with that long-term on those fibers, and the carpet mills don't like that. Can you use a rotary machine? Yes, you can. Should you? I think there's probably better methods than a standard 175 rotary machine. But the Cymex is a little bit different in that it's a planetary.
Let me interrupt you for just a second, if I may. So the concern then from the mills would be blossoming of the tips of the tubs.
Yeah, and they all kind of have their own. They've all done their own tests. They've all done their own, studies and things like that. Some might call it halo or blooming or blossoming or untwisting of the yarns, those kinds of things.
Right.
When you get into the
felting on a wool carpet.
Yeah, you might get fraying or fuzzing, absolutely, and it looks like your carpet has split ends. So those are things that are not popular with carpet mills. The Cymex is a little bit different in that it's a planetary gear system. So you have a large disc with 3 other discs underneath, and the large disc spins one direction and the other discs down below spin the opposite direction. So I don't think it really equates to the same potential untwisting or unblooming of the yarns. The mills don't necessarily denounce the Cymex, but they don't heavily endorse it either. And then there's the orbital or oscillating machines, and they're all over the scale. Some of them are more aggressive than others. Some of them are more expensive than others. That's usually due to the quality of the build. They do a very good job in encapsulation cleaning. I like the result that you get, but you typically don't see mill endorsements with some of the oscillating or orbital type equipment. Then there's a machine out there that I really like called the Trinity. The Trinity Phoenix is a tri-directional agitation. And so what it does is it has a rotary action, but it also has an oscillating or orbital action where it vibrates back and forth. And then the third action is a tamping motion. Picture a truck going down the road and you're following a real bumpy road and all the tires are bouncing up and down, and so forth. So those are the types of machines that they do a great job. They get the carpet very clean. There's a lot of violence on that carpet. And there's many other things. You hear different names and different categories of those types of things, but they all kind of fall into that. You have the CRB or the counter rotating, whether it be made in this part of the world or that part of the world. You have the rotary machines. You have the oscillating or orbital. The Trinity is kind of a new direction in agitation with that tri-direction. You have the planetary gear system in the Cymex. So basically, that was a very long-winded answer to your question, Doug, but I like all the equipment. I like it if it's a quality built machine and it does the work it's supposed to do. I can get soil out. I can clean heavily soiled carpet. I can make it look nice. I can get my 3, 4, 5,000 square feet an hour, depending on the soil. And I'm not doing unharm to the fiber. But having said that, we got to kind of curtail that. If you're doing a lot of commercial properties that there's warranties in place and there's mill concerns and stuff like that, they're going to default to that CRI, the Carpet and Rug Institute Seal of Approval program, and they're going to default to the CRB because that's the type of action they like the best.
So when it comes to all these machines that you have mentioned, one low pile commercial setting like an airport or a church versus a plush piled residential carpet, different types of equipment, different machines for preferences. What do you got?
So the way I look at it, I always look at what's my target market, right? Who's my demographic? If I do a lot of commercial glue down carpet and it's that tight low pile carpet, a loop pile, something like that, and they're big wide open areas, I'm going to probably use something that goes fast. And that's going to be like a Cymex or a Trinity or an Orbital or something like that I can hit those high production rates. Because honestly, in commercial cleaning, it's all about production rates. You got to do the best job you can in the least amount of time with the least amount of expense. And that's one of the beauties of encapsulation cleaning. It's very low cost. You have the electricity of the property. You have your machine that you paid for, that you probably paid for the first few times you used it. You have chemistry that is pennies per square foot to use. So it all boils down to labor, which is far and away your most expensive commodity. The absolute highest expense you have in your business is your labor. And so if you're stepping over dollars to pick up dimes, that's where you're getting hurt. And that's what happens a lot of times in commercial where guys can't compete. They're trying to do 30, 40 cent a square foot work for 10, 12 cents a square foot, and they just can't do it.
Sure.
And I would say this, anybody who does any commercial work or any volume, if they're not also offering encapsulation, they're simply working too hard. That's the case. So if I do a lot of commercial and I have big wide open areas, I'm going to have both. I'm going to have a CRB and one of those other machines I talked about. And that's really personal preference. That would be like me telling you what you should have with chocolate or vanilla ice cream, right? You can try the Trinity, you can try the Grumpy, you can try an Orbital, you can try the Cymex. You can decide which one you like the best. If I was to maybe downplay one, not a real popular action in the industry is the 175 RPM rotary machine. The mills just don't like that. I've done 100 presentations with Shaw, and every one of them have a picture of a rotary and a big circle and a red line through it. So can you encapsulate with a rotary machine? Yes. Should you? Probably not. I would like to see invest more in a CRB machine or a orbital or oscillating like the Trinity or one of the others or the Cymex. And I think you'd probably like that after you try them.
Now, is that because of the moisture? Doesn't get creating too much friction because it's a low moisture product?
It's usually the action. Yeah, the action itself. And if you're going to use one, I prefer even though it switches gears a little bit. We love the pads on the Cymex. We love the pads on the Trinity because of what they do. On a rotary machine, I would probably use a well broken in brush versus a dry block and a pad.
Sure.
And it's just going to be aggressive, and the mills don't like it. And I don't ever want to see a cleaner set himself up to get, in a situation where it becomes awkward between him and customer. So that's the camp that I sit in. Certainly there'll be people that debate that, but there's great equipment out there. There's great units, and there's no way I could mention all the brands, but get a quality unit, get the right action, and then make sure they match the job, the soiling condition, the carpet type, match it to that equipment, but make sure you have good chemistry.
So we're
go ahead, Brian.
Carpet cleaners, so we have to make things more complex. So yeah, you get a CRB machine, but there's several different there's several different brushes for different purposes.
Exactly.
You're not going to want to use the aggressive brush on a wool carpet.
Yeah. The beauty of the CRBs and the better ones, like the ones we sell, the Brush Pro that we sell, there's 3 brushes for it, and actually a 4th now, the real hard surface one. But the standard that comes with it, you're going to use 75% of the time. That actually is soft brushes that if you're going to use it in a residential, like a plush or velvet style residential carpet, you'd want to use that. Or if you're going to do wool carpet, you want the very soft brushes. There's a lot of people that do wool rugs and oriental rugs, or they might do Dury rugs, or some of those seagrass or things like that, the jute rugs that are really sensitive to moisture. They'll use the really soft brush. I've done several trips over to Maui, not only for vacation, but we had a distributor there, and I've toured many of those properties with him, and he sells equipment to them. You go up on the, a high-end floor of the Quanapali Ali'i in Maui and do a really expensive wool inlay there. You better have the right brush. And we did. I think they ended up buying 12 machines or something from us. So they loved it. And then the other beauty of the CRBs, you have that pile lifting capability. If they have the collection plates on them or the renovators, you can actually do dry soil removal with that. And you can go over the carpet and pull out a lot of sand and debris that a vacuum might not pick up. So it's kind of a dual purpose. And just about every single person that has one of those uses it during hot water extraction for agitation. And so they lay down their pre-spray, agitate that into the carpet, and then do their extraction. A very good form of agitation and a very good form of cleaning.
We do.
Yeah, it's great. We sell the 10-inch one a lot, and hundreds and hundreds of those every year that we sell, and they love it just for that.
And you can tell listening to Steve that he's not trying to sell you a product. He's just excited.
Well, I can, but that's another meeting. So no, I am excited, but I'm a carpet cleaner at heart. I've been in it 35 years at a high-end residential business. Went to work for Bridgepoint, started traveling the country, teaching IICRC classes. But what I also am is a businessman, and I know how to help carpet cleaners make money, and I want to see them improve their profitability. And a lot of that comes with the right equipment and the right chemistry to reduce your labor and increase those profits. And sometimes we as cleaners, we get a little opinionated and we get in our own way, and we tend to think the only good piece of equipment happens to be the one we own or the one that's in our van. And I would encourage us to kind of get out of our own way a little bit, do your due diligence, get demos on other pieces of equipment, because you don't have a piece of equipment in your truck or in your shop that doesn't pay for itself while you're using it. We're very fortunate in our industry. When we're making 100, 200, 300 bucks an hour, any piece of equipment, we could advertise it as short period of time or long period of time as we want. A lot of the pieces of equipment I'm talking about, put on a credit card, write a check or something, you're going to get an ROI on that piece of equipment very, very quickly. So when you try to weigh out, hey, this one's only 1,500 bucks, but this one's 2,500. Do I really need the extra 1,000? Really find out the differences between those two pieces of equipment, see if that 1,000 bucks is worth it. Because that's like 6 hours worth of cleaning. So in 6 hours, you've covered that difference.
Brian, if I may, you threw out there that you use it, and I know this is a meet the experts, and you're an expert, so you threw it out there that you use it. Tell us the application you use it on.
We have a couple of restaurants we do that are like a lot of people that do restaurants. They should be done more often than they are. And some of our guys have just finally figured out that a little extra time up front, working with a pre-spray and a CRB, just makes the rest of the cleaning job so much easier. It's worth doing. So we'll also use it sometimes on the wash floor when we're cleaning rugs, and we'll occasionally use it to do encapsulation. In fact, we do have a couple of high-end restaurants that they just sort of have a lot of grease impact, both from coming in off of a dock or a paved parking lot, that will extraction clean that carpet, and then we'll use an end cap at the end.
Very good.
End cap's a great soil hider, so it's there to help the carpet stay looking better longer.
And plus, those typically on those commercial jobs, they're not going to pay for the added, a fluorochemical protector, for example. But, for you, for a couple pennies a square foot and 15 minutes out of your day, you lay down an encapsulant and agitate it in there. every time you clean that carpet in the future, it's going to be easier. But when they vacuum, all their subsequent vacuumings are going to vacuum much easier with that polymer in place. So that's a great application.
Now you've talked about chemistry a little bit, and I would guess that in the time you've been at Interlink and Ramsco, your own chemistry has changed a little bit.
Absolutely.
So what you used to provide back when, someone may have used something in the past and gone, I didn't like that, but things have changed. So what's changed?
So there's several things, and you really have to try to drill down to the manufacturer themselves. You know what's their MO, what's their target? We at Bridgeport, I can't speak for everybody, even though I probably know more about the average manufacturing industry than I probably should know. Just because of relationships and people in the industry and the testing that we do. But here's what I can say we do at Bridgepoint with our chemist Tom Forsythe and way back, from Gordon Hanks. When we really started to, in the early to mid 90s, start to bring all our chemistry in-house and manufacture it ourselves instead of having it made for us, we made a policy in the very beginning. We're never going to make a product based on price. We're going to make it as good as we can make it, and then we'll worry about what it costs after that. And when you look at a certain chemical, we are very discriminatory on the sourcing of our raw materials. There's many parts of the world that we just simply won't buy materials from, and we never will. At least why a few of us are still employed here, that's not going to be the case. So that's a big deal, because just because you have an STPP or TKPP or glycol ether EBDB or phosphates or whatever, you can go down the list, all the stuff that goes into chemistry to make it what it is. We are very discriminatory on the sourcing of that raw material, because that is the basis of everything you do. We have a very sophisticated blending process, and we could give a lot of people our formulas and they still would have a hard time making them, because they wouldn't be able to figure out the space, the temperature, the time, the percentages and things like that. So it's a very sophisticated blending system. But what that does on the back end is it gives you a product that is very consistent. We want the first scoop and the last scoop, or the first ounce and the last ounce, to work exactly the same. And I think you and everybody on this call can say over the years, you've probably used many products where you can't say that. One time it worked great and you loved it. Another time you're like, what happened? What changed? And so we try very hard to make that consistent. The other thing is the coverage rate. I'm not talking about dilution. I'm talking about coverage rate. When you look at a ready-to-use gallon of product, a lot of the industry standards on the pre-spray side might be 200 to even 300 square feet. We're quite often 300 to 400 square feet per gallon coverage rate on a ready-to-use gallon, and that's because of the quality of the raw material. It allows you to go farther, do faster, be more efficient. Like a gallon of our number one encapsulant, it's a 1 to 32 dilution, so it makes 33 ready-to-use gallons. You're getting 400 to 500 square feet on average soiling on an average gallon. That 1 gallon covers 16,500 square feet of carpet, and so forth. And so when you see things out there where people advertise a 2X or a 3X or the concentrate, it's really the percentage of solids that's in that polymer and the quality of the raw materials. We could advertise that ours is a 6X concentration. But if you can get 400 square feet out of a gallon instead of 300, that's a considerable savings on your chemical cost. And that long-winded answer to your question, but chemistry is very, very important. And when you start to analyze the products you're using, you start to test them on different carpets, on different soiling conditions, ask the right questions. If the person you're buying it from doesn't know the answer to those questions, hopefully he can get with somebody that can answer those questions for you.
Well, we're fortunate in that we learned a long time ago that the cost of chemical is not really pertinent.
It's the lowest cost of doing business.
Yeah.
So why sacrifice that? It's your lowest cost of doing business. But to give you for instance, it sounds like a lot. Hey, this drum or this pail is $192 and this one's $140. It's $50 difference. How can I afford that? Well, when you look at it dilutes this many ounces per gallon or this many ounces per 5 gallons, and I'm getting 200, 300, 400 square feet a gallon coverage, that pail, by the time it's gone, you've made so much money with that pail when it's gone, that cost does become irrelevant. Now, we at Bridgepoint, we look at it a little bit differently. If we save 2-3 cents a pound on manufacturing, that would equate to hundreds of thousands of dollars in savings just on that item. But we're not going to do that. Figure out how to make it the best we can make it, and then we'll worry about what it costs after that.
Yeah, if a better product saves you time, it saves you time. Time's
Right.
expensive.
Without
So,
question. Without
um,
question. I'm certain there's guys on this call, and we've all been, it's the world we live in today. There's message boards and there's blogs and there's people that live on these boards, and that's fine. And some of them have more traction than others, and some of them have more activity than others. And sometimes the people are listening to a lot of that because that's the only one talking to them. And I understand that. That's the world we live in. But unfortunately, in our industry, one of our biggest competitors is misinformation. Get the right information from the right place and the right people. I have very good friends all over this industry that work for other manufacturers, and we're great friends. We share rental cars. We travel together. We stay in the same hotels. And we've done that for decades. And we co-teach, we co-present at trade shows and things like that. And most of those guys will get along and whatnot. So if you have a question, maybe go direct to the source and go direct to the manufacturer, talk to other people that have used it and those types of things. And then remember the facts of life. You can't argue with the laws of physics. And chemistry is your lowest cost of doing business, and your labor is your highest cost of doing business.
So
what makes your product safer than other products on the market?
Very good question. So Tom is absolutely laser focused on that. And he was probably I would say the number one reason we really started to go down that direction. And because back in the day, hey, this works so much faster and we can buy it for this and nobody cares. Well, I don't want my guys mixing it all day, every day. What really changed for us at Bridgepoint is when we had to get an explosion room. The explosion room changed our focus on things. But so there's a number of things that play into that. And regulatory, unfortunately, are labels today. Labels anymore aren't marketing tools, they're regulatory labels, and you have to put this on it and that on it. But what makes our product safer, and you got to say safer, greener, those types of things, is the sourcing of the raw materials, the products we use to manufacture them, the percentages and the concentrations that we use to put in those. Most of your better materials, especially in their ready-to-use formula, are green or greener. And it's some of the other aftermarket or lesser market products that are not. I can tell you right now, point blank, I would certainly never go down this road. I can tell you the names of a whole bunch of chemicals that aren't approved for use in California. They shouldn't be selling that. They don't have Prop 65. That we could sit and go down the list, but that's not where we live, and that's not what we do. And so forth. So when you're using better quality raw materials and you're following the guidelines set forth by this organization, that organization, typically those products are better. Now, I will also be very upfront and honest and tell you, we're not going to certify all those. When you talk about Green Seal GS37 or EPA DFE, which is now Safer's Choice, Eco Logo, those types of things. While I applaud those organizations and I like what they're doing, they're trying to make a better, safer, healthier environment. They're trying to encourage products, better for the user and better for the environment. Probably all the science and all the testing hasn't been done yet on a lot of that. Some of the people that have certain criteria to get a product approved don't even have a testing category for that product. And so I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to, go down a negative road, but some of that hasn't really been thought through. The other thing that happens in our industry is now with some of these organizations, if you were to certify those products and get them approved, it's very expensive, but you also have to divulge all your formulas. And in today's world, it's very difficult to put out a very good, very high quality formula that meets all these guidelines and meets all this criteria. And make it usable and practical. And if you divulge all that to your competitors, which I would argue that Bridgepoint has far and away the most imitated product line in the industry. This isn't a Bridgepoint seminar. That's not why we're on here, but that's just one of those facts that the quality of that product line Everybody knows how much Citrusol we sell. They know how much Viper Venom we sell. They know how much. So they've all tried to come out with products, and there's some very, very good products out there. But what are the raw materials that they're putting in those products, and so forth? Again, another long-winded answer, but better materials equals better ingredients, and better ingredients equals better results, and a better product for the user and the environment that he uses them in.
Well, I was just gonna say that since I'm the politically incorrect one, I can say that some of the requirements for some of those certifications are just silly. They're just silly, and they're directed towards, if you take this product and pour it in the pond behind your house, will the fish live?
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Right.
This is not what this is designed for.
Yeah.
So some of those are just a little bit silly. You said it very nicely.
Well, and hey, listen, after curfew at the bar over a cocktail, during happy hour, I have no problem letting it fly. This probably isn't the right format for that.
Yeah.
Well, since you mentioned it, you mentioned polymers. Encaps work with polymer technology, and polymers today seem to be getting the same kind of connotation as chemical did a few years ago. All polymers are bad. What's different about the polymers?
It's a training issue, right? That's a training issue. And again, I think I probably said in the first couple of minutes we started talking that the chemistry today is so much greater and so much better than it was when we started this. But polymer is widely used in all parts of our industry and all industries, many different industries. They use it in electronics cleaning. There's polymers, and abatement cleaning. There's encapsulants and polymers, and people that do stuff like that. And remember I talked about the sourcing of raw materials. What type of polymer is that manufacturer putting in that product? So I'm probably comfortable in saying that there's some products out there that the polymer flakes off, maybe in a larger size or a larger structure, or it doesn't even bond to the fiber and you don't get any long-term effect, or it only works on one type of soil, a dry silicate soil, and so forth. And that might be why it's, $12 a gallon or something like that. The quality of that polymer, we would say in most cases, is not injurious in any way, and it's a very safe product. We have a product, our number one product, that we actually certified through the CRISOA program and through the EPA Safer Choice program. So it's a very green product, and it has a polymer in it, and stuff like that. So you can't lump them all into the same category. And polymer could be used as a very positive word. It could be used as a very bad word. But just like anything else, you could say chemical instead of chemistry or solution. You could say solvent, or people start to wig out over solvents, not understanding what the true definition of a solvent is. So that's part of the dialogue.
We're talking to people in California, and California has some pretty strict regulations. Whether they're some
earlier you mentioned the word silly. So
whether they're silly or not,
I know it's the world you live in California.
So there are polymers that are in encapsulation products to make the carpet stay cleaner longer, which is really similar to the goal of a Teflon or Scotchgard polymer product. So if California is outlawing polymers, are they outlawing a type of polymer, one polymer, some polymers? Are you going to get in trouble if you use an end cap that has a polymer in it that acts sort of like a Teflon?
No, we're going to go to Nevada and purchase that stuff.
Yeah, so the answer is no. And let's not confuse polymer technology with fluorocarbon technology. And that's the direction what's happening now. Fluorochemicals were our savior for, we invented the aftermarket fluorochemical protection industry. I mean, 3M, way back with Scotchgard, and then Bridgepoint got behind that and started marketing. And we made hundreds of millions of dollars on protectors. And now with the restrictions or the bans on PFOS and PFOA, the fluorocarbon technology going away, that is definitely a rule that I don't think all the proper testing and criteria has been done. That's definitely something that I disagree with. and you know, that you just throw it all away and then let's work backwards from there. But it is what it is. That's where it is. It's California right now. It's Maine. There will be other states that go down this road, and so forth. So the next up is polymer technology. Polymer is a very good protector in certain circumstances. It's not as good a protector as fluorocarbon, I can tell you that, because it doesn't give you the real aggressive resistance to oils. And in today's world, you know, there's a lot of oil-based soils that get tracked in on a carpet. Secondly is look at all the fibers that are coming out now. What's the number one fiber that's sold nowadays? It's polyester. And polyester has an affinity for oils. So what's going to happen, what you're going to see is you're probably going to see more frequent cleanings are needed. Then, you know, we went a long time where we could go a little bit longer between cleanings. We could protect a carpet and it stayed cleaner longer. Well, you know, we're getting a little bit off on encapsulation here, but the likelihood that people are going to have to start cleaning a little bit more frequently to keep these polyester fibers and PET fibers and corn oil fibers cleaner longer, they're going to have to clean more frequently. And but the next best step is polymer technology. Some of the rinse agents or extraction agents have polymers in them. Not only do they help clean and do that, but they also have that anti-wicking capability. They give that invisible barrier. Well, in encapsulation chemistry, a good polymer, a high quality polymer, not only do you leave the polymer behind, it doesn't change the hand, it doesn't change the feel, doesn't make the carpet dry stiff, but it definitely repels soils. And so each subsequent vacuuming, you're continuing to pull out soil. So that carpet looks nice for a much longer period of time in between your restorative cleanings. That's the direction that it's going. And we'll see what happens. You know, California and Maine are right now. We think Vermont soon to follow on the fluorocarbon thing. But you guys are, your protectors that you can use now are polymer based, not fluorocarbon based. And whatnot. There's one left. We actually had a product, advanced protector with Teflon, that we saw this coming. We made a very large batch. We just had to beat April 1st deadline. And I think we had at last count, maybe 1,300 gallons left. But if that's something that some of your guys want to jump on, get into an Aramco branch and grab that advanced protector with Teflon.
I'll take 500 gallons.
Because once it's gone in California. So.
Wow. Yeah.
It's really unfortunate. You know, the carbon mills have pulled fluorocarbons out of their, you know, the fluorocarbon out of their manufacturing years ago because they saw this coming. Of course, you know, we do hundreds of millions, they do hundreds of billions, so they can stay ahead of that game a little faster than we can. But that's where we are today. That's what's happening, and so we got to play by the rules that are on the field, and that's what we do. We have a very good polymer-based protector in CaptiGuard. We have another one, Maxim SOS, is polymer-based with acid dye resistors. So there are options, but I would never sit here in this chair and tell you it's as good as our regular Maxim or some of the other good fluorochemical technology that you guys have used in the past by other quality manufacturers. It just isn't. And until we can invent something or come up with something, we have some things in the works. We have some exciting testing, but nowhere near ready to lay it out there. We got to deal with those oils, and that's likely going to come through more frequent cleaning
Or another step towards people getting rid of carpet.
Yeah. So one thing I think we need to do too, I want to make sure, because there's probably people on the call that I started earlier and then we kind of got off track a little bit. There's kind of two camps, right? There's people that maybe undervalue the service of encapsulation cleaning, but at the same time, there's people that overvalue the service of encapsulation cleaning. And so encapsulation absolutely works, and it does very well when applied properly. And we talked about quality chemistry, we talked about realistic expectation, we talked about proper application. But when you're talking about, you know, the 1,500 to 3,000 square feet per hour on the low end and higher in many cases, dry times in less than an hour, many times in less than 30 minutes. You know, it's very easy to learn, very easy to train technicians. You don't have to be 6'2", 220 and bench 300 pounds to do it. I mean, most of those machines, the CRBs, are under 50 pounds. and so forth. So anybody could do it, and you could train it very quickly. And I think those things are important. But what it also does, there's two other things that I think people forget. It allows you to competitively bid against any other cleaning system out there, and do a very good job and a very satisfactory job, and hit those high production rates and stay very profitable at competitive pricing. But at the same time, it also helps you compete against not cleaning. A lot of the commercial accounts that we target, we know they don't clean frequent enough. We know they don't clean often enough. And quite often that's a budget issue. And so if we can encourage them that, hey, we don't have to clean this at 25 or 35 cents a square foot. We could clean it at X, and so forth. And you guys have to determine that. When you look at chemicals that are pennies per square foot, and you look at the machine you bought and how long you want to amortize it over the course of a year or 6 months or whatever, and then you look at your labor rates, you know what your cost of cleaning is, and then you base your profitability on that. But I have a lot of customers that do commercial cleaning at 6, 7, 8 cents a square foot, and they're very profitable because they do it correctly. So, so if you're really down on encapsulation, you might want to rethink that a little bit. Let's make sure we get educated on the right way to do it.
We're getting close to wrapping up. Is there anything else, Steve, that you wanted to throw out?
Yeah, I would say maybe one more thing is let's be sure that we make sure we research properly and question when we think or hear somebody that might be overstating it. There's manufacturers of certain pieces of equipment. There might be manufacturers of certain chemistry that claim it's the be all end all. We've never taught that. We never will teach that. The carpet mills don't promote that. They typically like X number of times of encapsulation between hot water extractions. They like that restorative. People ask about residential a lot. Can you do it in residential? Absolutely, you certainly can. I know a lot of people that do it. I wouldn't rely on it solely. Great for interim, great for touch-ups before or after parties around the holidays. But typically our customers are paying for that once a year truck mount, restorative cleaning. They want that full truck mount experience or that hot water extraction experience. I mean, I love portables too. So that's something I think we need to remember and consider. But when you look at the delicates, the rugs, sensitive carpets, but also the world we live in today, the price of gas and the cost of fuel and the cost of the van and the cost of a machine. When you look at the cost of encapsulation cleaning and what it takes to drive out and do a job doing that versus the cost of hot water extraction, you can save a lot of money and maybe hit some of that environmentally friendly situation that some of those customers, especially in some parts of California more than others, might be conscious of. And so those are points that I think people really need to be conscious of and maybe weigh in. And then, other than that, it really boils down to things that I know we jumped around a little bit, but, why would I maybe be down on encapsulation? It's probably a training or an education issue. It usually boils down to chemistry, application, or unrealistic expectations. What type of equipment? We know there's equipment out there that does a very, very good job, but are we also maybe aligning ourselves with what the mills like and what the mills represent, and so forth? And then profitability. What do we need to price this at? What do we need to do it at? Because I'll never clean at X amount per square foot. That's just too low. Well, when you're walking away from millions of dollars, and millions of square feet, because I said millions of dollars, that was a mistake. When you're walking away from millions of square feet because you won't clean at a certain price, maybe clean it differently, and you put that revenue right back in your company, and it opens up a lot of avenues. So don't be down on it. It is a viable system. It's very effective. It's very efficient. It's very profitable when done correctly, and so forth. But at the same time, be honest with yourself and don't overstate it. Let's not get into a situation where we can cause issues down the road that we shouldn't have.
Right. Brian, did you have any questions from people that sent in anything that we didn't cover yet?
Well, the only thing that I had was a question about people that are concerned about polymers. And if you're going to do an end cap cleaning in somebody's home, you're leaving a residue that's supposed to flake off and be vacuumed up. Is there a health concern for kids or pets if there's a residue that's going to flake and it's a polymer residue?
So here's my answer to that. And it's not a perfect science, but here's what I would say. In a residential environment, I would like the cleaner be the one to do the post vacuuming and so forth. So at the end of an encapsulation job, you are supposed to do post vacuuming. Most times in a commercial setting, we don't do it. We just educate the property to do it that night or the next day or their next regular scheduled vacuuming. But you don't have people wallowing around on the floor, right? So they're walking, they're upright, and so it's typically a non-issue. If I were in a residential situation and I was encapsulating in a residential environment, I'd like to see the cleaner use air movers and dry it a little bit quicker and do the post vacuuming themselves, and that can eliminate that issue. But even outside that, even if they don't, they just tell the homeowner, actually, I've never heard in 20 plus years now, 25 years of being around encapsulation cleaning, even with all the relationships we have with Shaw and other mills that we worked with over the years, I've never heard of an issue or a situation where somebody maybe had an adverse effect. That doesn't mean it hadn't happened, but I've never heard of one. So I think that we can claim it's very effective. It's very safe. You dry vacuum, you pre-spray, you agitate it in, it dries quickly, they vacuum it. Most people vacuum as soon as their carpet's dry anyway. We all know that. They go right behind us and vacuum it, even though we just left with our $80,000 truck mount. So, and they're going to be in good shape. And then the last part of that long-winded answer, we tell them not to walk all over it and be right on top of it. Anyway, even when we do hot water extraction, maybe we apply a protector or something like that. So,
well, I like the idea of what you mentioned, doing the whole routine, partially because there's a marketing aspect to showing up with the truck mount and showing up with a little jiggly machine and running a towel over their carpet. And by the end of the day, they're not impressed at all with, can I get one of those down at the grocery store?
They can be, and that might be the equipment, because there's equipment that looks like they could rent it at the grocery store, but there's a lot of equipment that can't, right? But as impressive as a truck mount is, or a big powerful portable, and you give them that restorative and that powerful and that aggressive and that real dog and pony show of hot water extraction, what do they really pay us for at the end of the day? They pay us to clean their carpet. They pay us to clean their carpet. They want a good job. They want a fair price. They want to be able to refer you to others with confidence and call you back. And so forth. So if I'm able to go into a job and meet all that criteria and be in and out of there in less time and have it dry in less than an hour and so forth and check all those boxes, what's the problem? Do you see what I mean? So, yeah. And where labor is our highest cost to do business, if I have a big 10,000 square foot property, but only 2,000 or 3,000 square feet of it really needs restorative cleaning with hot water extraction, but the other 7 I can do with encapsulation, I'll do that all day long.
Absolutely.
Yeah, all day long.
Perfect.
So it's just one of those things that maybe let's try to get out of our own way and look at the big picture. I'm a truck mount guy. I'm a heat freak. I'm a hot water freak. I'm a get in and get aggressive and sweat and get the dirt out of there and scare those grease monsters out of the carpet. I live in that world too, but I'm a businessman at the end of the day. And it's another tool in the toolbox, and there's a place for this.
Well, I think we've gotten a great amount of information from you. Thank you for being here, Steve.
My pleasure.
Steve, I learned a lot tonight, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. Hopefully I didn't cross any lines or anything, but you've used terms like politically incorrect and offending people and silly this, that. Hey, listen, there's nobody that can play that game better than I can, but I've learned over the last 35 years, you pick your battles.
All right.
Exactly.
Well, this has been recorded. CFI members can see it at any time. So if you want in your text to see it, you certainly can go to the CFI website and look it up.
Did we get all the questions answered? I know there was quite a few pop-ups. It looked like there was some pop-ups on equipment. There was pop-ups on, did we get all those questions answered?
Well, there were 2 that came in at the end. Can you add deodorizer to your end cap? And can Encap be made in a powder concentrated form?
So we've not really experimented with the powder because of the type of the raw material we put in there and the polymer. I've heard that there's other people experimenting. I haven't seen one that I could say is ready to go or ready to go to market. So, and I don't see us coming out with anything like that anytime soon. So no on the powder, it is a liquid. And then what was the other question? I'm sorry.
It was adding a deodorant.
Oh, most of the better ingredients are going to have a mild fragrance in them already. And, you know, if it was a water base and there was you know, kind of a mild, you know, what's the makeup, no alcohols or something like that, you probably could. But what I'd rather them do is that if they feel like they need to deodorize, do a mist of something after. I don't really like them mixing any other chemistry in with the ingredients that are in there already and changing solutions or change. Yeah, I don't want to affect the polymer. I don't want to affect the encapsulation process. So probably not. The other thing is I mentioned percentage of solids earlier. And like we have a product that could be a much higher pH product, but by lowering the pH of it, it takes some of the nasty smell out of it. Sometimes pH will affect the fragrance or the odor of a product or the odor profile. And so just by lowering the pH, we can put far less deodorizer in it or fragrance in it when we manufacture it, which if you use less fragrance, you get a bit more good stuff in it, right? Something that actually adds to the cleaning of it. And so forth. And one of our key products, one of the key ingredients, we've really backed down that fragrance profile so we could put a better percentage of solids and polymer in there, and it made a huge impact.
Perfect.
Right.
So good.
So are we over our time limit here, Chauncey? Are we good to go?
I got another hour if you guys
You're good to go.
I can go till everybody passes out.
You're free to keep going as long as you want.
All right. Well, how are you doing, Steve? You
I'm
think
good.
We covered everything.
I'm good. I just I didn't really have anything. Like I say, sometimes a lecture or you know, going down a specific agenda, it can get a little bit boring. Maybe if there's people still on that, do you have other questions? Are there questions we haven't answered? Do you want to fire away any other types of questions that we could cover for you?
Steve, when's the next training on this particular method? And
we do them all over the place. You know, we'll do them in our branches and things like that. Something I started doing during COVID, all the years of traveling and teaching, I kind of got this little loyal following. I was doing independent trainings for like companies. They'd get 3 or 4 companies together, guys together, and, you know, we'd log in and do a quick training. We can do that. But now that everything's opening back up, most all of our branches are very educated on this. Not all of them. A lot of them are restoration and stuff like that. But we can schedule classes and we can schedule seminars and we can even set up webinars. I have a workshop that's literally only about 90 minutes on encapsulation cleaning. And if you guys wanted to set up a 90-minute workshop, it'd be a little bit of a review what we did here. And obviously it would be a little bit more you know, manufacturer friendly, meaning we'd focus on our products, but I'm very open, as you heard. I mean, I'll talk about others. I know there's very good products out there and stuff, but that's an option. But most of the branches,
do you have a hands-on portion of the class?
Yeah, usually at the end of that class, we do a demo. We absolutely we do a demo with various pieces of equipment if that location has it on hand, and if we're traveling around teaching and stuff like that, we'll try to make sure that's the case. When I used to travel and hit all the distributors that I worked with all the years, we might pick 3 or 4 topics in a day or a day. And then the next morning, and we do, you know, protector and encapsulation and tile and grout and a business class. And then, you know, we do a 90-minute, 2-hour workshop and do a half-hour demo at the end, and they get to play with all the equipment. And then the next morning, I told them how to make money with all that stuff we talked about the day before. So we do things like that. We do them all over. We have many instructors that travel around. A lot of times our customer appreciation days or open houses, they'll have equipment there that can be demo and run and tested. We have our Nexus show coming up in Las Vegas at the end of March, which is real attractive. It's becoming one of the largest industry trade shows. And it's our show. We have a lot of our vendors there. And there'll be equipment and stuff there. Not a lot of hands-on opportunities, obviously, there in the ballrooms and things like that. But certainly information is flowing like crazy at that place, and it's a good place to rub elbows with other people that are doing it.
You bet.
Would you let Doug use the CRB and chase down the forklifts?
I would. Yeah.
I'll get the forklift in there early and have them mess up the floor. Yeah, the
There you
carpet.
go. I've used, I can't tell you how many times I've used our CRBs to clean up our booths, because there's paper and trash and crud all over, and you run that over, and our booth is often the shiniest booth in the show.
Wow.
So
There's some marketing.
picks up the lint. Here's an idea. You asked this, Brian, earlier, and for the other guys that might thinking, why would I want to go out and pay that much money for a machine like this? What is it really going to do for me? I mentioned the quantum polyalihi in Maui. And if I could just for 2 minutes explain this, let me talk about the versatility of this machine. Not only can you do the encapsulation like we talked about, which is vital, but they've spent, I don't know how many tens of thousands of dollars on vacuums all these years. And they're right on the beach, right on Maui. So the amount of sand and stuff that you can imagine gets trucked in that place is insane. So we went down there to do a demo. We went up to the 4th floor, not the 1st floor. We went to the 4th floor, and right off the elevator, inlaid between all this travertine, all this beautiful travertine, is this very high-end woven wool inlay. It's this wool carpet, and they had very nice vacuums. I think they were the Windsor, what is it, the Model 12, very nice vacuum, commercial grade, high end. And they did the full on north, south, east, west. They went over that, and they vacuum it twice a day, every day. And so for north, south, east, west, the 4-way vacuum, just like they were taught, just following the rules. They're, of all the people on our streets follow the rules, they're 2 of them. So anyway, so what I did is I went right behind them. I put the renovators on the Brush Pro, a CRB, and I went over the exact same area with the soft brushes. I went over the wool. And when I was done, I took off the renovators, and they were full of sand. Full of sand. They probably weighed 1.5 pounds each. And keep in mind, that gets vacuumed every day, twice a day. And we were on the 4th floor, and I did that demo. So when you go and you can do pile lifting and dry soil removal, now it doesn't have a vacuum source on it, it's all mechanical, but pile lifting and removing dog hair and pet hair and embedded soils and standing fibers up, pre-spray, and then agitate prior to your hot water extraction, encapsulation, a very versatile tool. So don't think you're spending whatever they cost now just on the CRB. Look at the other tools that it can do for you.
I could look it up, but I think it was about $3,500.
The 17 is probably like 3,700, and the 20-inch is probably 3,900, something like that. And then the 10-inch, is around 2,300. Now, for those of you that know this or may not have heard, the 10-inch basically has been almost out of the industry for about 2 years. There was a severe supply chain issue over in Austria. The motor manufacturer had an issue. They moved it. Then they still couldn't keep up. They went to a new one. It was a nightmare of issues. So we were getting very few. That's been corrected. They're getting back they're on the water right now. I'm due to get about 140 of them next week. They're already sold, but I have like another 150 coming right behind it. So the Austrian built 10-inch CRB, the Brush Pro, is within the next 30 to 60 days should be back and available for some of you. May have some you're waiting for, or have had someone order for a year and can't get it.
Wow.
And of course, we'll edit this commercial off of.
I'm sorry. Kind of, not really.
Call today, don't delay.
Yeah, that's right. So.
Perfect.
Well, yeah, you are definitely right with the price of the chemical and the price of the equipment. If it's good equipment, we've purchased equipment that was inexpensive and had it last for 6 months.
Yeah,
and be unfixable.
And unfortunately, getting parts for that lesser cost machine can be a nightmare. And
that's what makes them unfixable. Yeah. There's
other components, and there's other machines in that category. We simply won't. So I've been approached by everybody. Hey, sell this, sell that. I'm not going to do it. I won't do it. We sell these. That's what we sell. That's where it's going to stay. And we owe it to our customers to do that.
Perfect.
And so that's where, trust me, I've had enough bad experiences with a piece of equipment that made a customer mad. I don't need to throw any gasoline on that fire.
Right.
But I think it seems like we're winding down, so we might as well call it a night. It looks like we've answered the questions that have come up in the chat. So if you can think of anything else you'd like to ask Steve, just give him a call, work, home.
Absolutely.
We'll post his cell phone number.
There's a very good chance. I saw Wild Bill Corrigan's name on there and a few others.
Yeah.
There's a very good chance those guys have my cell number and they know it's on 24/7. Unless I'm on a plane or teaching, that my phone's on, and I'll return your call as quickly as I can. I don't care what time it is. So,
well, Steve, I've got your number. I'll be calling you.
You bet. You're welcome to.
Need one of those machines coming in from.
Right. And feel free to email. I mean, obviously I'm in a lot of meetings and sitting in a lot of that stuff like that, and email, or if I'm traveling and stuff like that, you're more than welcome to reach out. I say, if I had one parting message, if you hear something from somebody, whether it be over a chemical or a piece of equipment or something like that in our industry, and you feel like you question it a little bit, there's probably a reason you should question it, and get the answer, get the right, talk to other people, talk to people who used it, maybe do a little research, and make sure you get the right answer so you can make the best decisions for your business.
Perfect.
All right.
Well, we'll be back in 2 months, right, Brian? Do this again.
Right. That's right. Thank you very much. Thanks, Steve.
All right, guys, take care. Have a great evening, and thank you for the opportunity.
You bet.